my people. Welcome to the Amos Perspective. Today, we will be talking about something deep, the architecture of the Nigerian state itself. Nigeria calls itself a federation. But the question is this: are we truly a federal republic, or are we operating under unitary chains disguised as federalism? This episode is not emotional rhetoric. It is structural analysis. It is constitutional reality. It is political economy. And today, we are breaking it down. Let's begin at the foundation, the 1999 Constitution. On paper, Nigeria is a federation. Powers are supposedly shared between the federal government and 36 states. But when you examine the exclusive legislative list, you begin to see something different. Nearly 68 major items sit exclusively in the hands of the federal government. Defense, foreign policy, mineral resources, oil and gas, national security, railways, electricity, until recently, even key economic levers. And here is the legal hammer, Section 4, Subsection 5. If a state law conflicts with federal law, the federal law prevails, always. In theory, that is normal in federations. In practice, in Nigeria, the center covers the entire field. States are left with shadows. Now let me take you back. 1963 Constitution, 4 regions, strong regions, economically viable regions, productive regions. They controlled internal policy. They controlled development priorities. They relied on local production. Then came military rule, central command structure, oil wealth concentration, fear of secession. And slowly, power moved upward, from 4 strong regions to 36 dependent states. This fragmentation did not strengthen autonomy. It strengthened Abuja, smaller states, less economic scale, more dependency. And that is how we entered what many now call feeding bottle federalism. Let us speak plainly. Every month, states gather in Abuja for FAAC, Federation Account Allocation Committee. Revenue is shared. Federal government retains over 52%. States receive about 26%. Local governments about 20%. Here is the problem. 31 states rely on federal allocation for over 80% of their recurrent expenditure. Let that sink in. If Abuja sneezes, most states catch pneumonia. That is not federalism. That is administrative dependency. Now here is the irony. Between 2023 and 2025, FAAC disbursements surged from roughly 10.9 trillion in the first 9 months of 2024 to over 16 trillion in 2025. Almost 50% increase. You would expect states to become stronger. Instead, internally generated revenue declined as a proportion of their income, from 25% to about 20%, meaning, as federal transfers increased, local effort decreased, and that is structural distortion. Now add another layer, state debt. Cumulative debt of over 10 trillion naira. 24 states hold more than half of their debt in foreign currency. What happens when exchange rate shifts? Servicing costs explode. So increased FAAC allocations do not translate to development. They go straight to debt servicing. This is not fiscal federalism. This is fiscal entrapment. Now let's connect structure to politics. When wealth is concentrated at the center, the presidency becomes everything. Total access, total control, total leverage. That is why elections become do or die. That is why cross-carpeting is epidemic. Between 2023 and 2025, over 140 opposition politicians defected to the ruling party. Governors, lawmakers, and power brokers. Why? Strategic survival. Align with the center, access resources, protect relevance. Political loyalty becomes transactional, not ideological. That is the political consequence of fiscal centralization. But something important happened in 2023. Electricity, railways, correctional services moved from exclusive list to concurrent list. That is significant. Now states can create independent electricity markets, license generation, transmission, distribution, Enugu, Ekiti, Ondo, already moving. This is not theory, this is structural shift. For the first time in decades, states can solve power locally. That is what federalism should look like. But implementation requires capacity, technical knowledge, financial discipline, regulatory clarity. Without that, devolution becomes confusion. Now here is the big one: solid minerals, gold, lithium, iron ore, coal. Nigeria is sitting on wealth. Yet contribution to GDP remains minimal. Why? Because mineral ownership is centralized under the federal government. States control land. Federal government controls mining titles. Double permit bottleneck. Investors get confused. Artisanal mining proliferates. Value addition remains weak. We export raw materials, import finished products. That is structural inefficiency. Now let's think beyond. Some scholars propose consociational models, power sharing, rotational presidency, formal elite cooperation. Others argue for centripetal systems, electoral incentives that force cross-ethnic coalition building, systems that require broad geographic spread of votes, systems that reward moderation over extremism. The central question is this: how do we design institutions that reduce zero-sum politics and increase shared stake in national stability? Nigeria must be bold enough to innovate structurally, because repeating the same architecture will only reproduce the same outcomes. Structure alone is not enough. Personnel matters, meritocracy matters, independent recruitment bodies, impartial civil service, professionalization over patronage. Countries like Botswana and Rwanda show that disciplined institutional culture produces resilience. Nigeria must elevate competence over connection, fairness over favoritism, professional ethics over political expediency. Without meritocracy, even perfect federalism will fail. So where does this leave us? Nigeria is not broken, but Nigeria is structurally constrained. We are operating federalism in form, but unitary concentration in function. The 2023 amendments are a crack in the wall, but deeper restructuring is required. Fiscal autonomy, resource control with royalty model, power-sharing innovation, merit-based governance. The sleeping giant does not wake because of slogans. It wakes when the chains are removed. Chains of fiscal dependency, chains of central command, chains of political survivalism. True federalism is not about weakening the center. It is about strengthening the whole, allowing each state to breathe, to innovate, to compete, to contribute. That is how nations rise. My people, Nigeria stands at a crossroads. We can continue feeding bottle federalism, or we can build coordinate autonomy. The future is not predetermined, it is structurally designed, and it is time to redesign. This has been the Amos Perspective. If this conversation challenged you, share it. If it provoked you, discuss it. If it inspired you, act on it. Until next time, goodbye.